What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 6th, 2023. 318 is finally in Wave 2, and that is a big milestone. Missions I've literally been waiting for since I backed the project are now in the works, and for some reason, I was the center of attention on Star Citizen Live. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, this was a big week, so let's jump into those patch notes and see what was going on. And since they aren't categorizing by letter anymore, the Monday patch had feature updates that were basically reverting back to 317 for how often we black out in our ships. In 318, I think it was happening a little bit too often for their likings. I imagine this was a master mode test or something like that, well, their work is not coming to the PU anytime soon, so maybe they wanted to revert back to current systems for right now. And they also added all of the ships at this point, besides the super limited ships or collaboration ships like the Saber Raven and AMD Mustang Omega. Things like the Vandal Scythe aren't available, obviously, and they're continuing to resolve issues around widescreen monitors as well. For bug fixes, the main issue fix for me was the security post Correa mission should now be repeatable. It was just freezing at a point, and you would just not get any more guards or any more bosses, and therefore no more boxes to make money off of or things to fight over. For the Thursday patch, feature updates had, well, that security post Correa mission got a little update to one of the most valuable items you can get, which is Osoian hides. It's just basically taking them from a red box with gold trim to a proper contraband looking box, which is just some folded up leather. For bug fixes, invisible cargo was fixed, rock mining is back up and running, bunker missions and PC kills should now be recorded, and Quantanium miners rejoice. After removing volatile cargo, the alarm will not keep playing. There was also a launcher update which addressed some issues with the crash handler. This is kind of like, as I mentioned before, going to Wave 2 is a big deal. That's most of the backer space, and it's showing that Star Citizen can now scale with PES and things like that. And now it's just a matter of cleaning up more 30Ks, crashes, bugs, and we should be going to live, I believe, fairly soon. I don't know if they have like a target date or anything that they said, but it's got to be coming soon at this point. Wave 2 is a big milestone for a PTU patch, so if you're kind of looking to get into 318 and get a feel for it, now would probably be a good time to prepare for the wipe that is coming in live. So we have another monthly report to go over this week. We've been going over them for the last 3 weeks now because they're kind of catching up with kind of the end of the year, taking some time to do the monthly reports. So we have January's, and we're going to start out with AI features, as we always do. And AI can now throw grenades, which is going to change things completely on how we engage with them. They can also now attack or defend specific areas. Probably Squadron 42 features, probably not going to see it in the PU, but they're there. AI Tech is completing the first pass on AI using ground vehicles. They are now working on them using transit systems like trains as well. Not showing on screen, they completely reworked the AI reactions to ships, and now it's done, it sounds like. So they can shoot at ships in the area. They'll know that they're there. It's a very important feature to make the AI an actual threat in the PU. Then for ship art, many unannounced or unnamed ships and vehicles are in the works. The SRV is basically done. A little bit more on that later. The Spirit is also through its white box phase. All marketing all the time here. I wonder what new cool ships are coming next, guys. This wasn't really much of an update on what's going on as much as, hey, by the way, we're working on a lot of cool new stuff. Want to make any guesses what it might be? Things like that, which is kind of funny. Then Arena Commander, well, they're basically going to be touching on that in the ISC section of this video, so not a lot going on here for the monthly report. racing front-end UI, that's what they're working on right now. Features. The much controversial skills feature is actually in the works at the moment. They're tracking actions from us to create a system that will raise our skills, and they gave an example about improving stamina by improving your fitness skill. For gameplay features, vehicle-based tractor beams were discussed, and they talked about escaping mechanics, which I find really interesting. They also discussed attaching, detaching items. My dream is to grab components off of ships as the salvage mechanics improve. In the US, overall design continue with the cargo refactor. Happy to see it's still moving forward. Ship insurance is changing a little to take into account that we may be able to recover our ships from a soft death state. Question mark? I don't, maybe? They sound like they want to make repairing the more obvious choice over claiming, which is a really good thing. Lastly, they seem to have some very small changes to commodities, but more along the lines of they're probably just mixing things up a little bit. I'm sure this system will get an overhaul that it needs eventually, but now doesn't seem to be that time. For mission features, there's a lot of stuff here as well. They created missions that I've wanted to see forever. Less reward at lower level missions for salvage and mining, but there's also unlawful versions. And then finally, the one that I'm really looking for, and I think will change the way that we play Star Citizen forever, is a lawless mission that is kind of put out to a lot of people, and, well, you'll pay to compete over an area. So you have an investment that you put in, something that Juptown doesn't offer, and value materials come out. So you need to fight to keep your investment. I hope that investment's really big. Also, larger Orison missions because the platforms are so large. Bounty Hunting V2 got a little mention. I don't really think it's worth taking a look at right now or talking too much about until we know more about it. And they're taking a look at the law system to kind of deal with players boarding ships, whether that's lawful or unlawful. A little bit more on that later. EU locations, well, the only thing they're really working on that's worth a mention so far is that the law office that should eventually coincide some updates to bounty hunting. UI, the main thing of note here is they're not calling it the star map rework anymore. They're calling it the Squadron 42 star map. So who knows when we're going to get that thing. And then lastly, VFX started a huge underground facility. This is probably the one that we saw at CitizenCon, but who knows? So pretty good monthly report. Again, those missions really, I think, are important. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in the Star Citizen Live section because they do go over it in more detail. Then let's get into those video updates, right? And for video updates, we had both an Inside Star Citizen titled In the Arena and a Star Citizen Live. Overall, this was more of a planning month feel video for me for Inside Star Citizen. In a sense, it was just kind of talking about all the things that they were doing to kind of fix Arena Commander or make it easier to fix Arena Commander, and it is as simple as that. They have to clear out all the legacy problems, and that is going to take time. And the first step they highlighted was the menu, in which would allow for private matches. The second is, making choosing a loadout a little bit easier, and the third was the actual maps. What they found out while they were trying to fix performance, though, is gold.
And so our engineers discovered that there was actually AI within the closed-off hangar. Since they had no place to go, it caused a little bit of havoc in those levels.
How did you feel the first time you heard about the AI?
When I heard the AI, I was like, well, that explains it.
I mean, the first thing that I would think about is yet the PU has hundreds of these pointless AI at the moment, and it's kind of frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. They also touched on racing, and this appears to be their main focus in terms of delivering new content at this time. The first step was to add atmosphere to the old tracks, and by adding the actual planet that belongs there is the way that they're gonna do it. So new planet, but it kind of looks like Microtech, nothing really special to show there. The next step was bringing the PU tracks to Arena Commander, and we need this to practice for sure. And lastly, are there steps they're taking from now on that are pretty telling for the future?
We're going to be committed to improving Arena Commander throughout the year, throughout the next year. We're targeting 12 new racetracks, including the 3 you're familiar with from the New Horizons Speedway. We are adding a new dogfighting map, Jericho Station, and we are targeting a lot of quality of life improvements, reworks to some vital systems that you might not see changes on the surface, but they are vital behind the scenes for us to make more changes throughout this year.
I think them highlighting and really saying 12 is a big number is something that is really showing what their focus is on. It's on racing right now. It's not on Arena Commander. It's not on Star Marine as much as it is on racing. That's how it feels. And yeah, they'll eventually improve the combat modes, I think, with those quality of life updates that they talked about. But that appears to be a longer term goal to really bring in the game modes like Capture the Idris, things that are very much were supposed to be a part of Arena Commander many, many moons ago that are not. Again, Capture the Idris was not mentioned at all at any point, I don't think, but just to kind of bring some of the older backers back to, I hope, what we should expect from Arena Commander in the future. And then for Star Citizen Live, it was titled Mission Feature. So the Mission Feature team joined the studio this week, and I want to start out with the fact that the team is sort of misunderstood. And Jared really made a concerted effort to clarify what this team actually does and why they're important to the company.
So we always try to make the first mission. So when it comes to building the feature, the best way to build the feature is to build it in a mission to be able to test it.
So you know it works.
So we know it works, exactly. So, when we come up with the time trial system, and James will design it and they'll also build the first mission. Korea overall, everyone looks at it as the new Korea update, but internally we go, well, that's the location under attack module that is essentially for telling if there are bad guys at a location and sending out a mission to retake it. Then there's the timed item dispenser, which is what Jumptown runs on as well, and Korea runs on. It's just spit out boxes for us at every X amount of minutes. So we build all those modules and then build something to use them, because then we can go to the content teams. We've built this. This is how we used it as an example, and here's all the documentation. Knock yourselves out.
Right, and everybody from the EU locations teams to the Montreal teams to anybody else, once they see you've now given them a working example. It's
good for them because they can focus on content expansion a lot more than bug fixing, because I work with, I think his name's, I can't pronounce it, but I'm going to say Guillaume. It's GT.
Okay. Guillaume.
Guillaume Thioret.
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't try the last name.
I'm sorry if you're watching, butchered it. So what he'll do is he'll set up the eliminate, what we call eliminate all, which is just kill a bunch of people at this location. He'll set it up, and then if there's a bug with it, because we own the base system, there'd be a bug with every single one all over the system, because they're all built modular. So then he can just go, right, there's a bug here, off you go, Elliot, and then carry on expanding, and then we can investigate into if it's on our side or maybe it's something gone wrong with setup or something like that. So it just gives them more time to do content expansion rather than focusing on these little bugs that we can quickly do.
So the Montreal studio gets a ton of praise here on this channel, but it is important to highlight that this team allows them to focus on what they need to do to look good. So that was very important that I thought we would highlight there. And next up is a little reminder of what Star Citizen is and what it isn't.
What else did you work on that players can look forward to in 3.18?
Korea is coming out.
The new Korea?
So yeah, that
which
was...
we're parked outside.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Depends on what side of the fence you're on with Korea too, if you enjoy it or not. PvP focused we tried for, so
yeah.
Some people might not as much enjoy it, but this universe is meant to mesh everyone together, so if you don't like it, you've got to try and avoid it. Or be a good citizen, right? That's the other way.
Be good, yeah.
Like I said, that's the easiest way to avoid it, is don't break the law.
Exactly.
Of course,
yeah, just
we need the hostility system and law system to always work.
Now, Elliot really reminds the Star Citizen community that all aspects of the game may not be for you. But Jared quickly jumps in and reminds Elliot that, well, the law system isn't exactly perfect, and these situations can become quite frustrating. And yeah, Star Citizen's not a complete product yet. It is very frustrating at times, but the community feels entitled to be able to participate in anything without any interactions with other players if they don't want them. That's never been the intended design behind Star Citizen. So yeah, these constant reminders by the developers of the company reminding the community what Star Citizen is pretty important. But Star Citizen isn't done. And that's what Jared really highlighted there. And honestly, this next part is what made the entire episode for me.
What else are you guys working on?
Salvage missions at the moment.
Salvage missions.
So yeah, we wanted a way to kind of show the new salvage mechanic. So yeah, I'm currently working on some different legalities and versions.
Go over the three of them.
Sure. So there's a legal version where we have a new company that's being made. I'm not sure if I can call it that. It's called Adagio, and they're literally just salvage contracts. So they have a bunch of salvage, and they sell you the rights to a piece of salvage. Like, you pay us like X amount of credits or UEC, and then like that's like, here's your lot number. You can go get it there, and then you fly over, and then it's yours to keep. And it's kind of in the safe area of this point, like a Lagrange point, where they kind of towed it there. And then there's the illegal version where basically an illegal corporation, a new one called the Tar Pits, they're like, well, they hear about salvage, and they're like, well, you can go there, but we know that security forces are going there to investigate what happened. You have an hour. Good luck. And then you basically have to race there, and once you're there, like, you have an hour, you have a timer on screen, and if you're staying there too long, well, then all of a sudden, like, you know, fighters come in, or like other investigative forces, and if you're in a vulture, for example, well, that is not really good at combat. And we're actually trying to get a mission giver, which I won't spoil who it is, so have fun trying to discover that. But a new mission giver, we're gonna give him or her some love, and they're gonna actually do a kind of a mini rush where it's like, well, there's been a massive battle somewhere in the middle of space. There's a lot of money to be made, but it's an open contract, so here you go, but you might find people, and then we're really trying to have emergent gameplay, community focus, so it could be 3 vultures that are like all happily salvaging away, and then an org is like, yeah, this is our salvage now. And they come in with like a reclaimer and like a whole combat suite. It's like, okay, kids, move aside, this is ours now.
Guys, for me, this is a pivotal moment in Star Citizen's history. Now, I do want to say that, well, these missions and these ideas are not going to be what makes Star Citizen great, or what makes even these mission types great. Purpose and meaning behind doing them is when Star Citizen is going to feel really alive and really finished. But the idea of creating risk versus reward, and understanding of what you're getting into, and levels of risk and reward is exactly when there is a reason to play Star Citizen, when there's purpose behind playing. This is going to make it that much more fun. This is what's going to make Star Citizen really enjoyable. I know these are basic features in a lot of other games, but I find these things to be very fun in the games that I play, and it's very important. And even in the interim, when Star Citizen isn't great, it's still going to be a lot of fun interacting with other players at those kind of resource rush type missions. And then there's a new dynamic event.
Well, I'm allowed to talk about that. We have planned a new dynamic event, which will be like classic racing. So it'll be like lap-based racing, and it will be multiplayer. So time trials is single, you against the clock, whereas this will be like people together, racing together.
A racing dynamic event.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the plan is to have, we'd have maybe 2 new ship tracks and maybe a ground race in there as a mix. And then we'd also limit it so that you'd have only a specific ship would be allowed to race on the race day.
Well, that caught me off guard, sort of. I mean, it's not a surprise given the initiative that is definitely going on at the company around racing. But then they touch on mining missions next, sort of.
Essentially, once again, we give you, you're buying the rights to a location that's far out, and there's going to be like an asteroid cluster gas cloud thingy, and we spawn a bunch of minables in there, and essentially what it is that each player can buy the rights to go there, and then they have a finite amount of spawned resources that they have to mine. Now, we make the contract open, so it could be SaltEMike, but I don't think he'll last long. It could be Burks going in and everyone fighting.
He's just really bad, isn't he?
He's terrible.
He's so
I don't
bad.
know why he still plays the game, but I've got no clue.
There's absolutely no reason for us to pick on SaltEMike today. I mean, after all, he's a CIG shill, and we secretly pay him under the table.
the words
Pay him for
are-
what
I
he
have
can't
ruined
play
his
the
life
game.
today. I'm so sorry, SaltEMike. And so the mining missions are, also we talked about, making multiple uses of things. Obviously, a lot of the same salvage kind of underlying tech for that stuff. And then in the monthly report, this will be the last thing we talk about before we let you go. There was some talk about researching defend your ship.
Oh yeah.
Missions.
It's not really missions. It's system. It's
Yeah.
like, it's probably what everyone's sort of been clamoring for. It's not mission. It's the right to sort of defend your ship,
There's another
which is
thing
probably
with
what
NFT,
everyone really wants, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to stand their ground in their ship. That's what that is.
And not get a crime stat.
And not to get a crime stat. That's what.
So they didn't detail the mining missions as much, but they do sound like the salvage missions because they were busy giving me a much-deserved ribbing. It was a lot of fun. I did watch this live on my channel, so if this is a news episode. I'm not here to kind of highlight the moments of when they said my name. I think that that's pretty weird. If you guys are interested in seeing my live reaction to this episode when it was happening live, it is up on the React channel. I'll link it down below. But the last thing, Jared brought Nick and Robbie Elms, a father and son combination, and Nick tells a great story about Chris and as they were friends as kids.
So I'm gonna keep pushing. What kind of DM was Chris?
It was fantastic DM, but the thing is, I think it only went for about 3 sessions because it was so work intensive. Like I said before, we were all quite good artists at school, so we're even drawing, concept art for environments and that, just to sort of like have the maximum amount of immersion.
Nothing has changed at all, has it? Yeah, so really great content coming out of CIG from the video standpoint, but let's jump into some other updates. And as always, we're going to start out with the sneak peek. And the sneak peek is, well, it's got more discussion around it than a normal sneak peek about the Road to Pyro would have. And it's highlighting first that the SRV looks really polished. It's highlighting second that tractor beams, and as we've seen in the concept art, look very much like mining lasers. And what the part that really excites me is what it's pointed at. Why is it pointed at a rock and not a spaceship? How many things are we going to be able to interact with this tractor beam? It's kind of exciting to hear. It basically does what a sneak peek should do, is it's exciting me for the moment that they do decide to give us some more detail around this feature. And yeah, color me excited on this. And then Citcon is back in Los Angeles. They did put out a save to date for us to possibly take off of work and consider getting some flight plans done. I would not recommend purchasing any hotels at this time. LA is a chore to get through if you've ever been there, and you're going to want to get a hotel that is close to the venue. So make sure you guys kind of handle everything you need to do if you're planning on going to Citcon LA. I'm on the fence about it at the moment for just a number of reasons, and I do really want to go there, so hopefully I'll make that work. But I will definitely not be looking at hotels until we know where the venue is going to be. And then lastly, there was a Galactapedia update where, yeah, it's the usual. There is a big episode, or excuse me, a big article about the Anvil Aerospace owner, and then the rest, as per usual, were the locations in the game. That'll do it for this week's episode, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording and putting it all together. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe down below for more weeks in review, and comment on anything that we talked about this week, but especially give me your thoughts on the mining missions. I am very excited for that. And if you guys don't end up watching the React video on Star Citizen Live, it is quite long. Towards the end, Robbie, one of the elms on the show, kind of, I don't know, just made me think a little bit about what I say and when I say it. There was a retrospective of a lot of times I just blurt out how I feel. That's never going to change. But I do realize that sometimes what I say does affect the people who hear it. I certainly see that in the comments down below sometimes. Some of the things that you guys say don't make me feel good. Some of the things that you guys say make me feel really good. When you guys come to the Twitch channel and say hello, those things feel really good as well. So make sure you guys do that. And I will see you next week. Thank you for watching. That was Week in Review. And that was another weird outro.